Primary ballots are going out this week, and locally we have two candidates vying for the county commissioner seat that's currently held by Cy Woodruff, and Mona Avey is one of those candidates. Thank you for taking time to visit with us, and welcome.
Well, you're welcome, and I'm excited about this, so we'll see what I come up with as answers for your questions.
Okay. So first question, the next board of county commissioners, I think it was back in January, we heard that Kalawao is planning to close and that the Craig power plant is planning to close, and that will have a certain amount of impact on us locally. And then we had the pandemic. So now we have all of the economic fallout from this virus, canceled events and loss of sales tax revenue. And so the next board of commissioners is going to face a pretty tough challenge as far as budget goes. If you're elected, knowing what you now know about the county budget, where do you think cuts could be made while maintaining critical services? And what do you define as critical services? What's crucial?
Good questions. It's always hard when you're looking for areas to cut. And I've had to do that in the past in one of my jobs. And it's not easy, and it's hard to get people to understand that in order for a company to continue doing business, some things are going to have to be cut or combined. So as far as essential areas, until I could really get in there and do a little bit more research on it, I really don't have a good clue on that. Mm-hmm. I attended budget meetings and I listened to everybody that came in and presented their needs and wants. Some of it I felt was maybe a little bit, I don't want to use the word frivolous, but anyway, a little bit too much. But then again, I'm not sitting in the driver's seat, mm-hmm. and I'm not the commissioner that's working with that, mm-hmm. with that department. So it was hard for me to really tell what is good common sense requests. Mm-hmm. And to me, common sense is going to be the big issue here.
Right.
And again, that's going to be left up to perception, mm-hmm. Whether it is a department head or whether it's a commissioner, mm-hmm. Because I would guess to say that they're not going to be the same a lot of times.
Right.
And that just comes from my background in managing people, mm-hmm. And even though, and I'm a firm believer that you've got to talk to your people and you've got to explain to them what is going on, why this is necessary. Mm-hmm. Is that always going to make it work better? No. But at least if you made that effort to explain, they can't be, well, they can, but it'll be harder for them to, convince people that they were mistreated in any way.
Right.
I think that in any business, organization, or whatever that's been going along well, mm-hmm. for a number of years, you are going to find when you have to start looking at what can be cut, mm-hmm. That you're going to find areas that can be cut. I think Rio Blanco County has been fortunate, mm-hmm. and they've had kind of a good run. Mm-hmm. Now we're looking down the road, and it doesn't look so good. I think some of those decisions are going to be tough. It's going to be very necessary for the commissioners to be tough as well, mm-hmm. but compassionate to a certain extent.
So that kind of ties into my next question is, everybody is pretty much in agreement that in order to continue to thrive and continue to grow and develop, that we need to diversify our economy, that we need some really quality economic development programs and projects to come along. And so what are some ideas that you have for how we go about that?
I think that the county's economic development department does a good job. Now, I also know that not everybody agrees with me on that point, but I do think they do a good job. What makes them work well and accomplish what they're hoping to accomplish is if our communities buy into it. If they fight it and just get like, okay, they didn't do anything for us, or we suffered through this and nobody helped us, it's not going to work. You know, and there's going to be people that feel like they've been left behind. You know, I've come across a little bit of that as I've been out pounding the streets. But from what I have seen by attending all the county commissioners and some of the other activities, is that this department really tries hard. Is there again going to be any magic pie in the sky to pull a slice out of and fix everything? No. And I think a lot of it is going to be having patience, looking to see what we can find that will fit into this area, this environment, with this rural communities. And that's not always easy to do. We've counted on our fossil fuels for a long time. And so bringing stuff in to, take that place is going to be hard. And I think it's going to be really hard on rural communities, just trying, because when I was out talking to some of the folks, they're ready to pack up and leave. There's not anything here for them, and I don't know how to fix that for them because they're fossil fuel people, so they didn't have any ideas to give me back either. They're just kind of like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And I think that we as a county kind of feel the same way, is, oh my God, what are we going to do? I don't even have any really great ideas in that, and I think that comes from not really having all of the information at my fingertips to work with.
Is that, as you've been out pounding the streets and knocking on doors, would you say that's one of the main concerns that you've heard from people?
It's been kind of interesting because, number one, they want to know if I'm Republican or Democrat, which is interesting. But the fossil fuels and the oil and gas was a big one. The loss of coal mine jobs was another one. And people didn't come right out and say this to me regarding the coal mines, but it's almost like they're hoping that in this period of time before it actually gets to the close down, that something will happen and it'll save the day. I don't know. I'm one of them that would like to see that happen, but I don't know if that's possible.
What other concerns have people shared with you that they would like to see addressed?
Well, one of the questions I was asked was, if I was elected, would I be in the power to support marijuana shops in Rio Blanco County? Right off the bat, I said that I thought that probably if it was within the county, that's something that would be discussed. But I said I would not support them. And this young gal came right back to me and she said, have you really researched them? Which I have not. I have my own personal reasons that I don't want marijuana shops in Rio Blanco County. But do I actually know that all of the amount of money that she was telling me would come into this county if we had marijuana shops? Do I know if that's a fact or not? No, I don't. And I haven't researched that. But I did tell her that if I was in the position, I would research that. Now, whether it made a difference in my opinion on whether we should have them or not, would remain to be seen. I at this point in my life, I would say no, it would make a difference. You know, and again, she talked about all these hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue that would come for schools and all of that, you know, and how it would help small business. And my answer back to her was, you know, I just hate to see the success of our small businesses riding piggyback on marijuana shops that could be gone the next day if the trend changes.
That's a good point. I mean, we all come into whatever we do with our own personal opinions and beliefs and standards that we hold. If you researched that and came to the conclusion that yes, this would bring, you know, X amount of money into the county and this would be beneficial, or, you know, even if it wasn't shops, if it was a grow, and you have your own personal standards as far as what you believe about the marijuana industry, how would you make that decision for the county?
I think that I would have to really work hard on that because, and I'm married to a retired law enforcement officer who worked narcotics. So, you know, I have that coming from his viewpoint. I would have to work really hard to separate that out. I would want to say that the good of the county would be in the forefront of my mind and not some personal thing that I have going on. Because I do feel like there will be numerous things that I will have to, if elected, be able to put aside that personal feelings or viewpoints or whatever and look at what is good for the county. One of the reasons I'm running is because I am extremely interested in the folks of the county and I want good for them. If it could be proven to me that that would be a beneficial thing to our county and not turn out to be something of a nightmare, I probably could be swayed.
Okay. So more information would possibly lead you to change your opinion or change your mind.
And I don't want to be locked into just my opinion, you know, because I think that as you learn more and you get different opinions from different folks, that there is a large chance that you're going to change your thought process, maybe even work out a compromise. And I think that's only good. I think that's what we want.
Right.
You know, so yes.
Okay. Along those same lines, how do you feel about the idea that the commissioners, when they vote, they need to vote in a unified fashion? How do you feel about that?
Well, I believe the commissioners should be a unified front. I don't believe they have to vote all the same.
Okay.
As a candidate, if I was to get elected, I don't know if I'm going to vote the same way, you know, and I want to be able to feel comfortable in saying, I don't agree with this, so I'm not going to vote this way. I would hope that that would be accepted. I firmly think that if they don't agree with my thought process, that they are going to tell me. And I wouldn't want anything less from them.
Okay. County government is one of the largest employers in the county, and you've got experience in management. What's your style? You'd be the boss. I mean, you've got 3 bosses here. How do you work with those departments? How do you work with those employees, those department heads, to create a really positive working environment and atmosphere where people are glad to go to work and feel comfortable sharing what they're dealing with in their department? What's your management style?
I've always thought that that you need to talk to your folks. You need to explain to them. And if they can have, even if it's a basic understanding of what you're doing and how you're doing it and why you're doing it, that you will have better response from them. They may not like it, they may not agree with it, but if you're open and upfront with them, they'll accept it much better. I love an open door policy. If I should be elected, I don't plan to be sitting at home and working that way. I know there is a lot of out-of-town meetings that have to be attended, but I also know that there's time that has to be spent within the county itself. And that's really what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I want the folks to know that they can come in. I want department heads to know. Now, with the way that it's set up right now, the department heads are split between the 3 commissioners.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I understood that to be was going to be for budget purposes, to help with the budget. I think it's gone beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure really how I feel about that. Everywhere I've ever worked, you had your chain of command, which we talked about at
Right.
forums. I'm also a big believer in the human resources department,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that difficulties need to go there as well and be tried to work out. And if not, then they should come further. Now, we don't have a county administrator.
Right. Do we
Yeah.
need one?
I don't know if I would be opposed to one, just because, the commissioners, their job is to be out and trying to recruit things to bring back to this county, to help this county grow and expand.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder how much time that they actually can devote to supervisors and staff,
Mm-hmm.
and how staff feels about being able to. Now, again, I'm saying that I like that open door policy,
Mm-hmm.
but then again, you've got to be careful of what staff is bringing to you,
Mm-hmm.
because I do believe in that chain of command. If a staff member came to me with a problem that has not been discussed with their supervisor, I'm sending them right back,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the only way that you can do that and have it work out well.
There's a lot of discussion now about legislation at the state level and things that are happening at the state that are not considered beneficial for Rio Blanco County residents. And there's a push to have more of a voice, have more input, a little bit more sway at the state level, which seems to require either having a lobbyist or having some really strong networking, or spending a lot of time at the state capitol testifying about these different bills that are coming forth. How do you balance those needs and that pressure with the needs, the day-to-day needs of the county?
I guess I would look at, if elected, I would look at the 3 commissioners' really strong points,
Mm-hmm.
and where their time with their strongest points is best served the county.
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, Jeff sometimes does more oil and gas and the kind of thing, because he understands it, he knows it.
Right.
I think that's wonderful. And if he's willing to do that kind of part, then maybe that leaves time for the other 2 to put their expertise into an area. I don't think that it is that it would benefit the county for all 3 to be gone all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that between the 3, they have to come to some kind of working arrangement that they meet the needs at the state level
Mm-hmm.
and at home.
Okay. In the last year, the county drafted a mission statement and each department has their own mission statement, but the county overall, the commissioners, drafted a mission statement that reads in part, to provide services in a fair, respectful, and professional manner consistent with the customs and culture of the citizens of Rio Blanco County. It's a great mission statement, but there's no definition of what those customs and culture are. How do we define that? How do you define what our customs and our culture are as a county?
That's a good point. And I have found sometimes in the various places that I have been, that mission statement can be really, really good, or it can be so vague.
Mm.
it doesn't say anything at all. And then that leaves it up to the person's perception.
Mm-hmm.
Also with the mission statement, I think it's a work in progress. And as time changes and people change
Mm-hmm.
in positions and we move forward or fall back or whatever it is, it constantly needs to be looked at so that it does say what the county wants it to say.
Mm-hmm.
Because what was the mission statement 10 years ago may not fit today.
Right. Or
And-
if new people come in and are elected, or
And they
may interpret culture and custom entirely different than somebody
and
else.
have a whole different idea about.
So what does that mean to you when you hear that? What does that mean for you?
You know, growing up here, you know, it was just like, at that time we didn't, because I'm, you know, a little bit frosty up here. We didn't have a college.
Mm-hmm.
Rangeley, they had a hospital, but it didn't, it was kind of like Pioneers, you know, and I was born in Grand Junction just because Pioneers Hospital was being built.
Mm-hmm.
To me, you know, it was cowboys, it was ranchers, cowboys, and then you had the oil field come in. So it was either roughnecks
Mm-hmm.
or your cowboys, you know, ranchers. Even back in the day when I was growing up, you know, you hear a lot about the sheepmen
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot, but I was mostly around cattle.
Mm-hmm.
So I never really gave sheep any thought until I got to driving. And then, you know, you had to work your way through them,
Mhm.
you know. But customs, I like the easy, kind of laid back atmosphere that we have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I first came back home from being back east, it was like,
Mm-hmm.
I can take a breath of air and I can breathe out,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not rush, 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 rush,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Of course, I was driving I-95 all the time, so one of the busiest interstates in the country. So it's nice to come back to this and it be quiet. Plus, there's something to be said about, you know, knowing the folks around you.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't hardly know my neighbors in other places.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's nice. You know, the friendliness of it, small town.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, too, sometimes you have to be raised in a small town before you appreciate small town. Because sometimes it's too slow. And even as I was a young adult in this town, and we would try to get doctors to come in for the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
it didn't fit the wives. You know, the husbands might be totally excited,
Mm-hmm.
you know, all this outdoor stuff, but the wives didn't want to drive
Yeah.
100 miles to decent shopping,
Right.
you know. So I guess to me it's just more of your small town, your rural,
Mm-hmm.
your friendly folks,
Mm-hmm.
you know, being able to visit in the grocery store or in the post office or wherever you go.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to add that I think our small town newspaper is an important part of
Thank you.
our way of life here.
So,
You know, I mean, these and our computers and everything is very, very nice, and they save time and whatnot, but I don't think there's anything really better than written word.
yeah,
So,
I have to agree.
so I'm just going to throw that out there because, you know, I am one of these, but I'm old school too. So I like things to
Mm-hmm.
look at and to read.
Mm-hmm.
I like to be able to mark it up or,
Mhm.
you know, whatever it is that I need to do to that. And that's hard to do on a computer.
Yes, it is.
You know.
How long have you been going to county commissioner meetings now?
Well, I went a few times with Renee when I was working at the assessor's office.
Uh-huh.
And the bug started biting me a little bit there as I was, you know, there to work actually.
Mhm.
And then when I retired, I started going full-time as my hobby.
Mhm.
And that's what I told everybody at the courthouse. That was going to be my hobby,
Mhm.
you know. And so 2.5 years about. Not as much in Rangeley as I did here.
Mhm.
But at the time that I was going here, I hadn't really even considered running,
Mhm.
you know. And then once I made that decision, I felt I needed to be at both ends of the county,
Mhm.
so that people would see in Rangeley that I was interested in them,
Mhm.
as well as the people here.
From going to those meetings, in that 2.5 years, what would you say is the most important thing that you've learned from watching that process?
At first I was a little frustrated, and I think that you were at some of these meetings, and we kind of talked out in the front of the courthouse a little bit about the lack of information that was given.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, there'd be like one sentence or something,
Mhm.
and what does that tell you? And then they come through, and they're just going down voting. So I didn't really understand that. You were instrumental in getting that changed, I believe, and having more information.
Mhm.
And then as I became more familiar with it, then I felt a little bit more comfortable in being able to ask questions. And then the more I went, it was almost like they expected a question from me. I also learned, because I didn't understand how the whole process worked, was that they read the motion or whatever it's called, and then the other commissioner will second it. And then once that's second, then it kind of leaves it open for discussion before they actually vote on it. And they do talk about some of this stuff behind the scenes. And I guess that is okay as long as they are not making decisions behind the scenes.
Depends on who you talk to.
Yes, and I'll agree with you on that.
Yeah.
But they have to somehow be able to communicate.
Mhm.
If I was to be elected and we're voting on something that I feel is important,
Mhm.
I want to be able to have that little bit of time to discuss, just so that I can maybe make things clearer in my mind, or solidify how I'm going to vote.
Mhm.
Because if I'm locked into something, there may be a whole different idea out there,
Mhm.
or opinion, or information that might make me ease back a little bit. And I think that having that time to do that is important. I would certainly not want to in any way move towards making any final or concrete, but I think there has to be some way to discuss it to a certain extent. And I have asked Todd about this, you know, because I was, that Sunshine Law business really kind of turned me upside down, you know, because I really do think the people's business is the people's business, and they have the right to know. But I also think that we have to have some way of talking about it, so that we can make good decisions. And I don't see any other way of doing that.
I think that might be where a county administrator would come into play
It might be.
that's more how that works at the town level, is that the town administrator disseminates the information to the trustees, and then the trustees, who aren't allowed to talk about it amongst themselves outside of a public meeting, they have all the information, they bring it to the meeting, and then they talk about it there.
Yeah.
Which can make for some long meetings.
And people have said that to me too, about, well, okay, this is being done this way because otherwise you can be in a meeting all day long. Well, part of me is not really against that.
At least you'd be in the comfortable chairs.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is you're discussing it where the folks can come in and be part of that, you know, on a larger scale than what is now, being done now.
Yeah.
but I happen to like meetings.
Mhm.
So, so I might not be the real good person to ask about that. You know?
Anyone who takes up going to county commissioner meetings as a hobby has to like meetings. Yes. Yes.
And you know, that question has been just asked of me numerous times. is,
Really?
Why would you go? Well, and you know, I told people in the very beginning is that I didn't want to be on the street corner and somebody come up to me and ranting and raving
Yeah.
about something that the county commissioner's done.
Mhm.
Because I'm not one to really be quiet.
Mhm.
And so when I open my mouth, I do want to be a little bit more informed.
Right.
And so, you know, and there's been numerous times when people have been ranting and raving at me, and I'd say, but I didn't see you at that meeting.
Mhm.
I was there, and this is what happened. You know, and so it really kind of floors them.
Mhm.
And that has been beneficial for me.
Okay.
So.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for taking the time to visit with us and share your opinions, and good luck.
Well, thank you for having me. I enjoy coming in here. I enjoy you two ladies. I think it is good to do these things, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you.